Hey guys, welcome to another week of Design Duels. This was a super special episode, super honored by the guest, who you'll meet shortly, and it was challenging. Very challenging. This one I feel like you just destroyed me. But through adversity comes growth. Also, be sure to check out at the end of the channel, I have a new Discord available. It's free to join. There'll be some cool interactive things regarding the channel. More information at the end. Let's get into it. Hey guys, I'm here with Sinix. It's been a pretty crazy experience. I went from being a fan of his probably 15 years ago on YouTube. You've been on YouTube a while, right? Like 20 years or something?
Oh yeah. I think 20-year anniversary is coming up.
Yeah.
End of the year.
Well, congrats on that. That's huge. But yeah, big fan. Honored to have you on the channel. For those of you who don't know, Sinix is an incredible teacher of art, and yeah, he's been on YouTube for quite some time. He's kind of a legend in certain circles. So thanks again for being here.
Very sad circles, but yes.
Very sad circles.
Very. A lot of depressed circles consider me a legend. No, but thank you. Yeah, I'm always happy to. First of all, very happy to support, anyone that's got a good idea, vision for, upcoming YouTube content channels, stuff like that. Because honestly, doing it for 20 years, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no one needs to really see that much from me. I'll put out a couple things, but like I like to encourage, all the more enterprising and enthusiastic young people that are into it, because I feel like I've already had enough of that attention, more than I deserve, to be honest. I feel like I would never have any success if I started any time later than right at the start.
I mean, you were pretty young. I am, though new to YouTube, I'm definitely not super young, so we'll see how long the enthusiasm lasts, but it's been super fun so far, and I appreciate that. It's been a really fun channel, so I'm happy to keep it going. If nothing else, I have a good time doing it. So just moving on to our challenge here. We came up with kind of a goofy prompt. You had released and I'll put it up on the screen, but of just a personal piece I think you did, which was an avocado samurai mech. It just really resonated with me. I showed it to like bunch of people because I just thought it was very unique and interesting, and that kind of led us to the vegetable warrior mech idea. So we're going to be doing Viking Bok Choy mech. So
I think it's worth noting about the little avocado guys, that was not like even originally like planned out in any meaningful way. It's literally just reacting to stuff. It wasn't like I set out to do any of that. It's always a lot of my art process, which I guess we'll see, but it's all just like, oh, that could be this thing, or that like almost feels like a little pit of an avocado, which is how this one went.
Yeah,
I was like, this round shape could be that.
Okay, well,
it really is not like a thing I set out to do most of the time. It's just like, oh, you randomly stumbled into something unintentionally, and then you got to be willing to just go with it.
Yeah,
go with the flow.
I'm interested to see how this goes, because this was a real challenge for me. First of all, I haven't done hard surface much in a while, especially mechs, and I got really focused into sort of the humanoid aspect of it, and I kind of wish I wouldn't have. I wish I would have, like, before you even said that, I was like, I really wish I would have done more just weird, interesting shapes and then found the design from there, instead of like thinking about it in a this is what I'm designing sort of way. And I feel like I got a little bit trapped by that, but we'll see what happens.
You started traditional, or is that
I didn't start traditional. There's actually a bunch of footage that I just straight up deleted because it was a lot of scribbling around and a mess. And then I was playing D&D and had a sketchbook, so I started sketching and kind of liked
I see
that more than other stuff. So I guess, yeah, technically this design was born from traditional sketching a little bit.
I have to say, I'm already like surprised that I think we came to like some similar
Oh, really?
some similar aspects with things.
Interesting. I mean, the three circles of the Venn diagram that we're trying to hit are so different. I'm wondering like how much can you fit in that? Because I think one of the things that stuck me into the humanoid design aspect was the Viking portion, because
Oh yeah.
it's hard to not think of Viking in a very humanoid way. I think samurai you can get away with a little bit more because of the armor having kind of different shapes to
Yeah.
play with, but yeah, it was a struggle for me for sure.
The yeah, the kind of I guess nature of us because we decided on a bipedal mech, so the
Yep.
nature of that, I think, you see Norse or Viking stuff and you're like, well, there's so much overlap. I gotta borrow
Yeah.
all these inspirations from it.
Yep. So I don't know.
So
I'd be
what's going
curious.
on here? What are all these shapes going on?
I'm trying to just find the Bok Choy shape language. Um, it's a weird looking vegetable. Like there's some cool designs in it. There was if you see them like cut in half, there's a really weird uh pattern in it that's kind of cool.
Hmm.
I maybe wish I would have leaned into that a little more. I ended up looking at the one of the reference photos that resonated with me the most was just the outside of it and the way in the bottom that the leaves kind of like it's almost like a Norse knot. They
Oh
bridge
yeah.
into each other a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So I ended up kind of using that as the theme and doing sort of a what's the term like actual biomechanical muscles instead of like gear joints and stuff a little bit. Um,
You jump straight into basically like your finished design doing lines pretty quickly without too much I guess, just without as much prototyping of silhouettes and stuff.
I think that hurt me a little bit though, and I did actually prototype more than I showed in the recording. I think there was an early recording and it just like scrapping because I was getting frustrated with it. But I wish I would have done more, and if I did it again, I would spend a lot more time in the prototyping phase. Uh, I do end up kind of designing on the fly a lot, which can sometimes be fun, can sometimes be not as good as if I would have just done the design before I started finding details. But I often end up like taking portions and really stretching them or exaggerating the proportions after it's there. It's kind of like something to play with versus the blank slate is kind of intimidating sometimes. But
Yeah. No, I think you'll be pretty amused by how similar or at least
okay,
like the idea like the
yeah,
things we're thinking about based on the prompt are um but I spent I don't spoiler. I didn't do any line process. It
okay,
all is just like I think most of the time is spent just thinking about the different silhouettes and shapes, and then the rest is just like adding some, basically just taking one and making it a little more rendered. But no, I managed to skip the line process entirely, which um I don't know. Like watching you do it on the video, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm glad I skipped it. I always find the line process can be like a little bit tedious, or just feel like you kind of start dropping out some of the energy of, a
for sure.
sketch or
Yeah,
of the design phase.
it's kind of
Not to
weird
say it's a
too.
bad thing, because honestly, it's a very good thing for designing and stuff, but it's also a little bit it's also a little bit can be tiring.
Yeah, I love line art for. Love line art and designing with line
Does he go
for.
little X or big X?
I couldn't decide.
I love that
Um,
quick, like, let me make it real big. Nah, no, never mind. I'll make it small.
I think I wanted. The only reason I didn't make it huge was I did kind of want the shield. I have too many Gunpla in my room that were like distracting me too.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's probably too Gundam referenced,
I'll,
but I liked
I'll
the
be honest,
shield
mine is
shape.
also, I was heavily, I think, way more inspired by like Gunpla aesthetics than I normally am.
Yeah,
Or just like, the shapes of it.
Hmm.
And same thing. I have too many things around that are like you can't see them in the background as much, but like on my side, it's just a giant closet that has like a whole just it's just filled with boxes of Gunpla stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I like line for organic stuff a lot. I think maybe it's the symmetry and the hard surface stuff. It in my head it makes me think it demands line more, but it gets extra tedious because you have to be extra careful with where you're placing stuff and behaving with the perspective and all that stuff. So like I agree. I would love to try painting just straight to paint, no lines with this. I just recorded a different video with Marco Bucci that'll probably be up when we upload this one. And we had kind of a similar discussion. He goes straight into paint.
What was your guys' thing?
You'll have to watch the. No, I'm just kidding.
Ah.
It was a wizard. It was if comic book guy, like someone similar to comic book guy from The Simpsons,
Okay.
was a wizard. It's pretty goofy.
Okay.
It was a good time.
Nice. So what is the SD070? What are we going with there? Is there a lore here?
I had it. SD stood for something. I don't remember anymore.
Okay.
And 72, I just like both. I think 7 is one of my favorite numbers, and then 7 and 2
That is
just
a great
look
number.
aesthetically good together. I think I don't really remember.
Hi. I'm gonna be honest. This is my drastic, strong opinions on design thing. I don't think 7 and 2 work great together as
Okay.
design.
I think it's the
Design
angles and
numbers.
I'm curious to like why do you think that?
It's mostly it's just because they kind of feel like they do the same movement and then one adds
Oh,
a little
okay.
bit, you know. So, 7 and 3 probably more. It's funny. No, this is like one of my favorite stupid things to do is to just do dumb analysis on like what numbers have the best aesthetic appeal and
Did
things
you
like that.
did you ever read How to Draw, like Scott Robertson?
Uh-huh.
Does he
Yeah.
talk about 5 in there a lot? I can't remember if that's a thing or if I'm making that up.
Now I don't know, and I'm gonna.
I feel like he
I
puts
don't, I
5
don't
on all
know.
of his designs, but maybe I'm making that up. I do think 5
It's
is a
possible.
pretty good
Like
looking number.
once again, it is fun to like kind of really like analyze, like think about all the numbers and like stack them in terms of appeal.
Yeah.
All right, you're going very I don't know how I describe that. Almost tribal Norse tribal tattoos. Some of these
I
things.
think I get rid of almost all of that.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
probably already erasing it. Yeah.
You know what this is kind of reminding me of a little bit? It's kind of like giving off a little bit of like there's like an aspect. I think it was because of all the green. It was giving me like a little bit of Halo-ish
Oh yeah,
adjacent.
I can see that. I've been on a Halo kick lately, not in any sort of actual sense, but I miss Halo a lot lately.
Yeah. Or maybe a little bit of that Halo and Doom Eternal type
Yep.
mix, which I felt like I felt a little bit of Doom influences coming through definitely in some of the stuff I was doing as well.
So yeah, most of the design done, kind of starting to render. I don't know what level of polish you hit. I kind of targeted the avocado-ish, avocado samurai level you had. 'Cause we
Yeah,
discussed that. So I
I
do a
went
little
a
bit of
little
lighting
more
and then some like
chaotic with it, but
decals,
yeah,
but
because the avocado one was just super like crisp, clean, like not a whole lot of. It was more so like cell shaded than anything.
yeah, so I probably go a little bit beyond that because I definitely do some lighting and stuff.
So my design brain, when I was watching you do the line art, I was like, my concern was like, oh, okay, I see you chopping up all the parts, adding all the interior shapes. I felt like they were starting to get, a little bit similar in just like the spacing, negative spacing of everything. But then, normally, rightfully, I always tell people that like it's a big difference between the lines and the painting because you can basically reorganize everything with like how you
Yeah,
block the colors, and then suddenly all the lines don't matter anymore because your brain is just gonna see the big, value shifts and everything like that.
yeah.
Uh,
I have noticed when I do design in line, or rely too heavily on it, often when I go to paint and just block in colors, it's too simple. It like all of a sudden it's like, oh, it would have been easier to over detail a little bit and then box things into shapes with the colors. But I think you want to be thinking about that all the time, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're, I don't know if it's beneficial, but like my brain is like thinking about like that at every stage. But sometimes I need to remind myself that like it doesn't matter until like everything is like whatever the stage is going to be actually visually
Yeah,
digested by people. Um, Sometimes I'm too much of a stickler for my design theory ideas.
but there was a point in this, I think, during the line where I probably thought it was enough, and then thought, but when I go to color, it's gonna get too simple, and there's not gonna be enough like visual interest. So I'll put in some breakups that I know are gonna be. I think I kind of already was planning where the colors would be with that.
Oh, we're doing the surface detailing. The little
Yeah, I don't
skirts.
even know what I'm doing right now. I can't see any movement, which is never good.
Now I have a question. Do you do any like custom surface detailing on your Gunpla stuff?
A little bit. I haven't gone fully into it with like scribing or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to. I have the tools for it. I bought all the nice tools and I was like, I'm gonna try to go real deep on this stuff. And then I've just been too busy. That was like probably 7 years ago.
Yeah, no. I think I've done some scribing, but I always wanted to get way more into it and just never
Yeah.
get around to it.
I wanted to paint one up really nice. The guy, one of my favorite models ever was the Gundam World Cup or Gunpla World Cup, like 2014, I think. It's just the new Gundam, and it's very simple. It's nothing gimmicky, but it looks so well like designed. He changed the silhouette of it very like subtly to make it better.
Uh-huh.
He added some really nice balanced details. He didn't like over detail it like a lot of people I think that customize their Gunpla make them super too busy and too much going on. He
Yeah.
did a really nice job on it, and that inspired me to want to do it, but I haven't gotten there yet. And then because of that being my inspiration, it's like a super high bar to hit. You'd have to probably do a ton of them to get to that level.
Oh,
So
you did the finishing shot with the slow pan and everything. I
yeah,
should
and
have
I'll do
added one
that.
of
I'll do that for
those.
yours in the actual video as well. But
Okay. Um, so yeah, I think overall, pretty fun design. It's interesting. You do personally, like I'm always thinking about doing all like the big gradation steps like early on and then
mhm.
kind of trying to work off of those. But I'm never sure about what works better because obviously you added all the big color kind of gradient movements later on. Have you ever tried doing them for like before you start
Are
filling
you
stuff
talking
up?
about volume and lighting gradients, or
Yeah, like at the end you added like, like a kind of spotlights of warmer tones and
oh
then
yeah, yeah.
cooler kind of movements.
I haven't
Uh,
done too far from that methodology much, but when I have, it's been really successful. I'm not as practiced in it. It's messier, but it's something I want to get better at. Even doing two-tone paintings. I mean, like you had a really good video on uh, value distillations, and I think that's huge for painting and design because it's forcing you to do shape design by looking at the light and shadow shapes. And even in this, had I done that up front, it's another level of control or variable on where the shapes are and what you're looking at. And I think the earlier you get that in, the better you can use it to your advantage. So, um, no, I haven't done it a ton, but I want to get better at it for sure.
yeah, I've or at least I don't know. I guess it's more so with making characters faces, things like that. I found that like because I used to do all like the bigger kind of, gradient things like after you do kind of the lighting ideas and the plane stuff
Hmm.
and all that stuff. But I found that it actually makes everything like you work. I don't know. I find that the results are a lot better and the way you think about them are a lot better if I do that step first, like the very first thing, and then kind of try to reactively, to whatever zone I'm in, kind of pick
Yeah.
colors. Tends to give it some interesting effects that sometimes are like unintended positive movements and things.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So I did write down the things that I thought inspired you first, just to give us that brain. But there initially, because we have three things, Bok Choy, Viking, and Mech. So my initial thinking was always to establish a hierarchy of those first and decide on like
Okay.
what's going to be the primary, secondary, and accent thing. Because I could go primary, just focused on a mech or Viking mech, and then have a little bit of a Bok Choy accent. Or I could go thinking about an actual Bok Choy Viking, which is what the right side is.
Hmm.
Kind of like where it's like, how would I make a Bok Choy look like a Viking? Do I give it the leafy part as a beard or as like some hair thing? And kind of thinking about that. And like I was like, maybe that's what he expects me to do. So I tried it out a little bit, but quickly I was like, nah, I think I'd have a lot more creative fun if I make the bok choy just the accent, and then I go for Viking mech as like the core. So right now it's just gonna be a lot of thumbnail stuff, a lot of carving out some shapes. I like
I already love these
certainly
though.
speeds up the process too. Just copy and paste and then just change a bunch of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna get my ass kicked here. I already like the design on these a lot better. The shape language, which I know like you've taught this very well on your channel, so I know you know it
I
super
skipped
well.
just a little part because I was like I thought I was recording, but it was one of those times where I sat down and started making more thumbnails and wasn't.
Oh, that
But
happens to
luckily
me
I
all
caught
the time.
myself and I was like, okay, don't worry, I only did like half of these. But yeah, I liked it when I'm making slightly more, like a little bit more than the quickest idea thumbnails to give myself like little skeletal frames like this, like you see in Blue. And that just lets my brain not care about, proportions and
Yeah.
gesture and stuff because it's like, oh, that stuff's locked in. So I can just focus on shapes, which I think is always valuable. But yeah, the big ideas I was playing with were like, okay, Viking wise, I'm either gonna need like horns, or I thought like, oh, antlers, like, something like that, or because that kind of feels like the roots, like the bok choy that goes through the leaves and stuff. So I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe that works a lot better. And then yeah, after trying some different things, I was also like, oh, maybe I do the big leaves, like for like a leafy cape coming out the back,
Yep.
because that could give it some bok choy things. But then I was still like, okay, I got to try horns everywhere because that cliche, like Minnesota Vikings, classic Viking horn helmet. So I'm like, I try
I'm
them
in
on the helmet,
Minneapolis.
I'll
I'm
try
not
them
sure if
on
you
the
knew that.
shoulder pads. And I feel like for mechs, you can kind of get away with either as like treating the shoulders like the wide part almost like a helmet. Um, and I was like, okay, which do I pick? And I like this one the best. And I thought maybe I'll use that little battle axe as and try to make it look like you said, when a bok choy is cut in half, it has all those,
Yeah.
kind of interesting patterns. And I was like, that's the goal. I want to make a battle axe that looks kind of like that. Um, and here I'm using a little bit of photo bashy stuff, just grabbing some photos. But what I like to do is instead of using them on the main one where I'm gonna paint it, I like to kind of just explore them like on a little thumbnail
Hmm.
off to the side, because that just lets me see it more abstractly as just kind of getting some ideas for stuff that might inspire me unintentionally. So that's kind of what's going on here. I was like, okay, give me a little bit more just random ideas that I wasn't thinking about. So I did that in Photoshop and then had to jump back over to Corel Painter because I like painting a lot more in Corel Painter, but Photoshop is so good for just doing all the quick little overlay photo editing stuff. But yeah, I'm working right off the thumbnail. I didn't bother doing any line work. I'm just jumping into stuff and slowly working up all my colors and values and stuff. Um, oh yeah, so the other big idea that I got like very hooked on right away was kind of trying to make some part of the top of the chest armor kind of feel like a beard, like kind of have
Yeah,
some volume where it kind of like gives the impression of like a giant beard. Because once again, Viking wise, I was just like beards feel like the right thing. Trying to get a little bit of that, that shape language of Viking stuff. And then yeah, just random gibberishly like almost Norse patterns, but I was too lazy to do them properly. So just kind of making a lot of gibberish that could kind of look like it. But yeah, I don't know. It's certainly like once again, none of this kind of was what I initially envisioned
yeah.
before starting. But I was just like, whatever. I'll just go with whatever, wherever the wind takes me, will be just fine.
I think
So I'm
that
doing a lot of
mindset is
chainmail by
smart.
just quickly squiggling
Yeah.
circles and hoping that it looks kind of like patterns and textures.
I think that
Uh,
wherever the wind takes me mindset is really smart though, because I think I got bogged down with what my initial vision was and didn't have enough flexibility, and then I got stuck. So,
Yeah, like this little gold, more ring-like gold thing. Like that was just because, oh, I saw it when I overlaid the stuff in that little thumbnail version. I was like, that's pretty cool to have some big round shape. Initially, I was thinking of like more of like I don't know what it's called, but like a big old like leathery kind of thing with a round top where it was more like a belly protector or
mhm.
something. But yeah, and then I brought back the leaf cape because I was like, I love the leaf cape too much. I don't want to leave it out. And what's funny is like the colors I picked for that, I just kind of did randomly from my gut feeling. And
Yeah.
instantly I was like, well, I like that a lot better than the colors I tried to be inspired by actual bok choy. So I had to adjust my little battle axe to be more in line with those colors instead. But yeah, I think the little battle axe could have been a lot more I don't know. It didn't quite meet the goal that I had in my brain, so I kept trying to readjust to make it look more like that. But yeah, it wasn't quite the idea I had initially. But yeah, this guy's very the only issue I have is that it feels very armor like I could almost imagine it being like armor on a person rather than a mech, which is always I always feel a little bit bad about, like it's a cop out for doing a mech design if you can't feel some of the mech joints and things.
I hear that, but I think it's a little bit contextual too. Like if this was in a mech anime where it's very like you have sound and scale and stuff selling it, then it's kind of unique because I wouldn't think to have leathery armor on a mech, but that's something that you don't see. It's kind of different. But I do hear you saying like I had a hard time trying to make sure I was getting the mechanical feel to it.
Yeah, usually I can just rely on, oh, I'll just make the proportions weird. Like I'm always big on
Yeah,
like, oh, let's just make a very short upper arm and a very long lower arm, and that way you can at least be like, well, it's obviously not a just an armor on a person.
yeah.
So classic. I tried to pop a little bit of leafy, maybe bok choy leafiness, like coming out of some of the armor parts. But yeah, I don't know. That was kind of how the process was going. So once again, I managed to escape without having to ever do any lines, which I'm happy with. Um, but certainly just trying to fake a bunch of, rendering ideas without having lines to go off of can be a little annoying, but just kind of making everything fancy.
I mean, faking stuff, even the detail, the Norse knot kind of details. I actually think they look a lot better when they're suggested than super clean. So I think it's really, it looks awesome. Like just the painterliness.
Yeah, this arm was and hand was giving me a lot of issues, and that's definitely something that would not have been an issue if I would have just drawn it first. But
Sure.
it's hard to like hands have so much like little form things going on that like without doing a drawing like and trying to sell that as like just quick little painting stuff, especially this, which I kind of did my, I don't know, I would say it's a little bit of a cop out of just making everything a little bit too dark and not really committing to bigger movements of light,
Hmm.
which I feel like is a weakness that I used to always do, is just kind of leaning a little bit too heavy into just everything being dark. Because it's a lot more safe and easy to approach than really getting the big light shapes in there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I had
Nice.
little word art for fun funsies.
Oh
And
man, yeah,
that's where we're
I
at.
love this. The kind of getting to the mechanical note you had too. I really like there's that one tiny little negative space in like the bicep area that really goes a long way to sell that it's not just a human.
Oh yeah, no, that was I had to keep that because I was like, that'll prove that it's a
It is funny
that's
how
my only
that's
thing to
such
say
a
that it's
small part, but it
human.
really sell like as soon as you notice that, it really sells the mechanical arm versus a human. So, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a little blown away here. Again, this is a big struggle for me. I think you were way more successful in hitting something like cool and interesting. And
Um,
now you've inspired me to like I really want to almost do this exact same challenge again and use more of your approach with the design, like focusing on the shapes and the paint first and maybe
oh
even avoiding.
yeah, I mean, doing a bunch of silhouettes is like that's like 80% of whether it will be cool or not is
Yeah.
already handled. So like I wasn't that I guess thrilled about my or it came out all right, but like for like at least half of the time I was trying to render, I was like, I'm making this worse. I think I'm making this worse. This is getting worse. Because I saw so much potential in the little thumbnail, and then I felt like I was just squandering it. But it came out I would say reasonable in the end, which is fine. But certainly in my brain, I'm like looking back through all of the little thumbnails that I started with, and I was like, I think I can make some decent, more render designs out of like half of those. That would be pretty fun. And honestly, just like having fun thumbnails is like that's where my joy in art like mostly is.
Yeah.
Like I get a little bit of fun rendering them out, but like seeing a page of thumbnails that I kind of like that's it. That's my favorite thing to look
Yeah.
at. It's just those and being like, it's almost like they have this untouched potential that it's like could go anywhere and you just look at them and you're like, that could be something really fun.
Yep.
Um, but it's just for me to understand because obviously, if I show them to people that aren't artists, they're just gonna be like, well, these aren't anything. You show me the finished stuff. But you show them to other artists, and the artists will be like, oh yeah, this is fun. I
Yep.
like this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, similarly, polishing a turd is never fun. So like if you have a silhouette that's not it, my least favorite or when I have the biggest struggle just getting to work on something, it's when it's not looking good because the silhouette sucks. And
Yeah.
it takes me a long time to be like, I can just destroy this and really change the silhouette. And then finally it's fun to work on again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So it's fun to spend all of your I don't know. That's why I love those silhouettes the most. It's just if there's a I mean, I always tell people that like if they want to work in the industry or anywhere, like you can literally do it by just doing silhouettes. You don't have to be much of a renderer or anything. Like you can just be the greatest silhouette person. That's enough. And I don't know. It's more fun. But no, not necessarily. I think everyone enjoys different aspects of art because I've met a lot of people that really love rendering and I'm just not. I've never been that person. I'll kind of like sometimes I'm like, oh, it's fun to render. But most of the time I like look at it from, before you're rendering, I was
Yeah.
like, ugh, I gotta render. And I always have to remember that, like, oh, once you get into it, like, it's not bad. It's kind of fun. It's kind of, you can zone out and just enjoy it.
Hmm.
But it has a weird stigma in my brain.
I go back and forth. I think if I render too much, I get really sick of it and like, oh, I need to design stuff and just do some like thumbnail type stuff. But if I do that too much, I'd miss rendering. So
Any big, I guess, regrets, missed opportunities you have about your
oh,
design for this
so
one?
many. After seeing yours, yeah. This so, and I don't want to. I'm not belittling anybody else. This has been on the channel. I don't feel like, and this is just my personal opinion. Any of the other episodes I've done, I'm not saying I wouldn't say I've won any of them, because it's not really a contest anyway. But there's on most of them, there's at least been something where I'm like, oh, I do like this aspect of mine better than theirs, even though I like theirs more overall, or there's like things that they really stood out at. This one, I feel like you just destroyed me. Like I like yours
I
hands
don't
down better,
think.
and I'm not trying to say that like in a flattering way, just to compliment you or whatever. Like just being honest, I like yours and how it was executed with the design and the idea is just way more interesting looking to me. Mine looks very just like a mech with some subtle like Bok Choy design language.
Yeah, but yours is much more ready for like production, like a pipeline of production. Because mine
but
is
I but
so
I
there,
but kind of like you're
it's
saying,
relying on a lot of just gibberish and like this hasn't even been thought out. There's no clarity of like what this shape specifically
but I
is.
feel like that'd be the easy part is just like okay, you have this as like your new thumbnail and you go and you just figure that little stuff out. Like
Yeah,
I think
possibly.
it's more important to have like kind of like you were saying the silhouette and even the silhouette of the interior shapes, the gibberish, so to say. Like I think still is more important than finding the details.
Well, yeah, I mean, so like we mentioned, yeah, silhouette is everything, That's why it's the easiest thing to practice and also the best thing to practice. And weirdly, still, I still run into so many people that will, like take one of the classes I teach or whatever. They know like how easy it is to just like get good results from silhouettes. And I do this too, where it's like there's still like a tendency to just skip that phase when you're doing an illustration and just be like, I'm just gonna go right into it.
Yeah,
I'll just figure out here's my character pose and my illustration composition. Even though it's like it's so quick and like efficient for your time to just get like a ton of thumbnails that take maybe a couple minutes each and you
yeah.
can get something really good. Um, so yeah, thumbnailing, the greatest thing.
And just to be clear, so I think I did actually thumbnail a decent amount. It just wasn't shown,
Oh, okay.
and it was a struggle. And again, I don't often thumbnail. Even when I thumbnail, it's often line art. One thing I struggle with that I don't know if this is just a lack of I don't know what it is. So when you're thumbnailing in silhouette, I struggle and I think I worry too much about perspective. Especially the
Oh
lack
yeah, I
of
don't even think
line
about
makes it
it.
hard for me to like know where things are sitting. Sorry, what'd you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, like honestly, I don't care about it at all. Like I'm just going where like, oh, I can just kind of fake because obviously, perspective. We all understand. Thing far, small, thing close, big.
Yeah,
But obviously, you have so much wiggle room in terms of like, like lens depth of field, like that type of stuff, so where you can like either pull those vanishing points together or pull them
yeah,
apart, and that gives me like enough, I feel like, wiggle room where I'm doing
sure.
things where it's like I never let the idea of the perspective kind of like dictate whether I think this would be better if it was smaller or larger. Like I don't want to feel like it's locked in to like
Yeah,
this depth of field or anything. So like I'm always treating that like a very like loose thing. Like you can make it work basically. Just focus on shapes first,
yeah.
and stuff like that. If you want my my funny little like feedback or opinion on some of like the thumbnails that I see you were doing and stuff, I felt like they always get like the one thing that I had to always like fixate on most when I was doing mine was to make sure they had like a very strong kind of like a C curve, in the
Yeah,
gesture. So I'm always trying to like compress the like belly forward and pull like the,
yeah,
like kind of give it that and make sure the leg isn't like fighting it too much because that's something that happens a lot is you'll get into the leg and then you're thinking about, what makes up a leg. You got like, this quad area and then this calf area and everything. And you tend to sometimes get stiffer and you lose track of like those
yeah,
big kind of that big C curve that like flows from
yeah.
the torso and
No, it's
everything.
it's stupid. I when I when I do animal and organic designs, which I think I'm much more practiced at, it's much more of a gesture practice with the thumbnails. And for some reason, as soon as I went to Max, my brain was like, it's got to be in perspective. It's got to be like I got very
I think a lot of
trapped
people
into
do.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, once again, as someone who's like just deals with a whole different crop of students every semester,
Yep.
I find there are so many people that are amazing at shape design, like intuitively
Hmm.
amazing, and then they just assume when we switch to like hard surface industrials, they're just like they have this idea that like, well, I can't do that. I can't do it well. I'm a creature person. And I'm like, it's so hard to get them to understand that like they're already really good at it. They just are not expecting it
Yeah.
to go well. So there's like a stiffness that they add to it. It's
Yeah.
like they inject all of these other things that just make it like a little bit worse. Or like just treat it. It's just treat it like a creature. You just are making a creature, and then you can even take any creature and just like just make a couple inorganic like angles or curves. Like you can do that secondary. Like you don't
Yeah.
got to do
Yeah.
that first. You can like take like a silhouette of an anteater and you can make that look industrial with just like one or two little like angle
Yeah.
changes. And but they always it's weird how hung up everyone gets about like it needs to have this rigid line perspective kind of
Hmm.
stuff happening.
I mean, and they really mechs are creatures as much as an animal or a monster compared to a human. It's just kind of an exaggerated human form in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. So,
And honestly, industrial stuff looks its best when it's like mostly using organic shapes.
yeah,
And the inorganic stuff is just in the, kind of the connective
the
tissue of it.
gribbly. Yeah, yep, for sure.
But yeah, no, I think you did a great job. To be clear, I liked it. I think it's fun. I think it looks like something that would definitely fit into, a video game, an actual production for a project. So I think your results are good. Very, very readable, very precise once again with the perspective and stuff. Yours is once again so much more closer to like just being ready to just plop into a 3D program or something.
Sure, yeah. Well, I appreciate it.
But I
Thanks.
liked it. I think you did a good job. You got the the ratio of your primary, secondary, and accent color stuff going on, all that type of things. Yeah, I think you're kind of right. Like if I would suggest anything about it, it would just be like finding a couple more, just organic movements of some of those shapes, because some of them do feel like they just get a little tight in trying to be
Yeah,
inorganic.
I think some material variants would help too. That would be like
Oh
an
yeah,
extra
yeah,
rendering step. But if I had made the muscly things look a little more like carbon cloth or less
yeah. That kind
plasticky, I
of
think it
carbon
would give a little bit
fibery
more contrast
material.
there
Yeah,
too.
I could see that. Yeah, I mean, like with everything, I think, always having that big, medium, small, primary,
Yep.
secondary accent for every aspect. Like you have it for color and stuff like that. But yeah, material wise, you can do like it's good to have that for materials. It's good to have that for, even the idea process. Like I
Yeah.
showed at this, like because you can go so many different ways of just like switching around like primary. Oh, I want this. And you just do that for like literally every aspect of things, and I always
Yeah.
find that's useful.
Which I think is another thing I like about your design, and maybe something that hung me up a little bit was I kept trying to think about the whole thing having Bok Choy design language infused into it, whereas you
Mhm.
have these. If I look at the whole silhouette, maybe the big portion, the 80% portion is Viking, and that
Yeah.
maybe is split up to like Viking mech kind of together, but then the bok choy is only like a little 20% accent. But I think that's a
Yeah, it works
nicer
out.
ratio.
For the record, yeah, I like in my head when we originally thought of it, like I pictured this a much more like kind of I don't know how to describe it, more like almost like ornate, ornamental, kind of very like I was thinking just everything would be like that dull green, white, like almost
Yeah.
jade-like patterns with like some gold accents. And
Hmm.
like somehow I wound up with like a big brown like metal leather and like silver 10 whatever kind of color thing. And I'm like, that's not at all what I originally was set out to do. Um but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
in
just
my head, I can still picture the original idea was going to be
yeah.
like all the like subtle, intricate, like patterns and things that were all going to be built around bok choy. And it was going to be way more kind of inclusive throughout the entire design.
So yeah,
But once again,
just
I
to
think art works best if you're just willing to let go of whatever idea you had
yeah.
at all times.
Yeah, no, that's a huge lesson I want to take forward from this for sure. Um, so just to flip your question kind of back on you, because I usually ask people this as well. So like after this experience, like, is there anything you would have done differently? Um, like, how'd you feel about the whole process in general?
Um, I I mean, I'm okay with aspects. Like I kind of still I don't feel like I'm still sad that the things like the battle axe and stuff like they didn't quite get to where I, originally set out to
Yeah.
get them. Um because even looking at the thumbnails, like I went through that deliberate thing of like changing the weapon. Because originally he had like a Kanobo, if you know what those are, like those big, like heavy
Yeah.
wooden sticks with just little, which I think are like the coolest looking thing to give a
Hmm.
mech. Like I don't, it's just a fun weapon. And I kind of like, I think it might have worked better with that weapon, just in general. But that doesn't really matter. Yeah, just thinking of more creative things. And in some ways I kind of like wish I would have tried a little bit deeper into the like actual bok choy Viking, like making a little bok choy that looked like just even if he's just off
Yeah.
to the side as like the pilot or whatever, or
Yeah.
just something little like cutesy cartoony, like what would a bok choy look like, imagine Veggie Tales, except it's in Norse mythology and it's a little bok choy Viking guy. And like, what would that guy look like? Give him like some gritty realism, like
I
that.
would watch the
I'm
hell out of
always
that show.
picturing. I don't know if you ever. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but like there's that Viking movie with like Mads Mikkelsen. He has like a one-eyed Viking character.
Oh yeah. I can't remember either. Shoot.
Um, yeah, but it's a good movie, and like that was like my I want to make a little bok choy that looks like Mads Mikkelsen's character, and then I'm like that would be the greatest thing ever. Just a cutesy little bok choy with like that kind of mood to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the channel. It was an
Yeah, and
absolute
thank
blast.
you
Yeah.
for inviting me because honestly it was great to even though I had to delay it a bunch of time because this parenting thing is no joke. It's a lot of work with the baby. So this was a nice way to get back into doing some fun art stuff. So yeah, thank you for that. And then it was a lot of fun to also get to watch someone else tackle it and see all the similarities because I think there were like I could
Yeah.
tell all along the way the same thoughts, just popping up in both of our brains as we're like, oh, this is Viking, this is this part, this is that
Yep.
part, and just kind of seeing how that plays out. But yeah, it was great. So thank you so much. Definitely, I'll try to promote this so we can get you start growing that
Yeah.
subscriber base and everything because you're putting out some great videos and got to make sure everyone's seeing them.
Thanks again to Sinix for being on the show. His YouTube channel has been an inspiration for me for many years. Please be sure to check that out. There'll be a link in the description below. He's got just a plethora of content to look at. And I still look up his videos to refresh myself on anatomy with quick tips and other design things. He's also teaching a class at Brainstorm School. He teaches quite a few of those throughout the year. Be sure to check them out. They're very valuable, very good courses. Finally, some news about my Discord community. I'm going to start a new Discord community for this channel. It'll be a way to interact with the content a little more. You can suggest people that you would like to have me on the show, or you could even suggest what you would like to see us draw. Additionally, I think it'd be cool to have some members of the community draw the prompts ahead of time and then get those featured on an episode. As per usual, there'll be links in the description. Please check that out, and I hope to see you there. Every time I forget to ask people to subscribe. Hey guys, art prints are now available. You get premium, high-quality prints of art from the channel. They are gold embossed. You can pick those up on Etsy. Link in the description below. Thanks for watching.